Very briefly, the movie Night Mistress is a horror film we shot here in the San Joaquin Valley. We shot Hollywood and Hanford and Visalia and Tulare a little bit. I live in Tulare, she is from Hollywood, Joe is from Modesto, Claude is from Clovis. So thank you for the applause. We're going to be opening up this to questions and answers. Just mentioned before we do that, I want to ask a couple questions of our stars. One, how did you get involved with the movie? And two, what's your favorite moment from the movie? We'll start with others. Claude?
Yes, I think I was tagged in the post on Facebook of Philip's casting. And I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. I think I emailed you, and
yes,
then I drove over your house, and
No casting,
auditioned.
I should add that this was just before production started, that we had lost a few actors due to scheduling changes, and I needed to replace the role of the detective. And so Claude came in, I think, about a week before?
I think like just less than 2 weeks away before you guys started. Yeah.
So I was very happy to see him, you know, so I literally had him come over to the house because I knew I was going to have to spend some time having him audition for me. So anyway.
So that's how I came about, you know, being part of the film.
Okay.
And then what's the other question?
What was your favorite moment?
My
It doesn't
favorite-
necessarily have to be a moment of yours. It could be any moment that you think in the movie.
Yeah, I think just you know, like the behind the scenes, like just watching everyone work together. Everyone's just like on board and want to do their best and give it all they got. And
I'm bored, but I'm doing my best. Okay.
So, and just seeing everyone just involved and just having a good time and making it fun instead of work.
God, I know, it was for me, apart from having been deathly ill at the time. In fact, I actually had a heart attack in the picture and had to rush to the hospital shortly after the movie was done. But apart from that, it was the most pleasant experience I've ever had. Working on a motion picture. The cast was wonderful. The people doing all the production, the camera work, the sound work were great. I am beyond, and I'm being utterly sincere when I say this, I feel utterly blessed to have had these people to have worked with. I mean, Renee here is an extraordinary actress. Claude was fun to work with. He worked incredibly hard. We even had to reshoot a scene he was in due to an issue with the location that we're in, so we came back, and it was better.
It was
actually.
better,
Yeah, actually it was a better scene altogether. I think it's one of those projects where everybody that's involved, whether feels or should feel, if they don't, very happy to have been involved with this at some level, because forgetting for a moment whether this film is successful or not, it's just going to be a nice film. And what, Joe, why that take over?
Same questions?
Yes, sure.
Well, I've known Phil for years, and we work together on conventions and workshops.
Joe has put on some of the best conventions in all of California.
Modesto, we do Classic Comic-Con up there. We haven't done it for a year. I've had my health concerns now in the last year. We're doing another.
I so much enjoyed his having a heart attack, I had one of my own.
Yeah, he couldn't resist following along. But yeah, and Phil and I had actually started work on a different project called Shadow Squad, is what we were really pushing at the time.
Yeah.
And he had submitted this script to Dream Cinema to take a look at. Well, the next thing I know, Philip's on there going, we're doing Night Mistress instead. I'm like, well, I want to be involved in that too. He said, you're on board. But I was coming down really just to be the listening board to what Dream Cinema was offering. I wasn't even down there to join the production at that time. It was my company or anything. And before we left, that production company wanted me involved. I guess I'm organized. He liked the book I had created. So I was signing a contract a couple weeks later. Well, your wife was signing for me.
Yep.
And my favorite Day though, I had a day that was my favorite. And most of it's because of Renee. She was top to bottom wearing black.
Oh, that the grove scene where
When you see her running,
Uh-huh.
it was 112 degrees outside in that grove.
Yeah, that had layers.
If I said,
Yeah, that's about
and,
right.
Yeah, right in the middle of August. And this poor thing, I just felt so bad that I was having so much fun watching her run.
I did track and cross country, so it was like one of those things you can't undo. You can't not be told to sprint and then not just sprint.
So it was just funny watching her all day.
Take two.
Take two.
Take four.
Leave her there. Come on, Philip, make her run again. So, and she's just a joy to work with. Claude too. I got a lot of the same feelings Philip does. I've come out of this with some family, some people I consider family. And Philip,
it sounds like we're being overly sentimental, but I think that's
Yeah.
very true. I have heard so many people refer to this group as my Night Mistress family, because they felt so close to so many other people, and they developed lifelong friendships. They came out of this particular
yeah,
project.
Renee is like my oldest daughter. She reminds me so much of my oldest daughter. So driven, and so I got to make her cry again. I told her this earlier today, and she got a little teary-eyed. She and I chat, and when we need to vent about anything, one of us is having anger issues, we get online and chat with each other and get it out. You know, it's about anything going on in our lives.
But it's something really hard to find. If you don't mind me answering the question, is it something really hard to find? I live in Los Angeles, I work in Hollywood. So this was kind of a trek out for me. I met Philip and Joe possibly, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago at a gentleman named Derek Mazur's convention, Tulare Sci-Fi Con. And just exchanged info, I think connected on Facebook, and then like months prior to their auditioning for Night Mistress, he had made a post about having the auditions, and I said, hey, let me know. And he did. He actually messaged me and said, hey, we're having auditions now. That never happens in LA. It's just, if you're not in front of my face right now, I'm not thinking of you. So it was really endearing to have this director reach out personally and say, hey, here's your reminder, we're having auditions now. So I was kind of torn, like Tulare is pretty far from Los Angeles for an audition. But Dante, my partner in life and best friend in love, said, just do it, go for it. I'll even drive you up there. So we drove to Tulare to just audition for a part.
It wasn't even the lead. It wasn't even the lead of the film.
And I had so much fun with it. Later they had some changes with some of the cast schedule, and I got called back in to audition for the lead role at that point.
If I may take it over very briefly here, she was originally scheduled to play a relatively small role, but a very important, pivotal role. And it was very hard to cast because it had to be played with somebody really, really good. Otherwise, the rest of the movie wasn't going to make a great sense to my mind, at least. And she knocked it out of the park in the audition. So anyway, everything's fine. The actress that we had playing the lead, who was a major screen queen, had health issues and a scheduling problem, and they at the not quite the last minute, but like just a few weeks before production, had to drop out. I thought, who am I going to call? So we had auditions in Hollywood, and they had a whole bunch of people that submitted their name right away. But I'm going to have Rin read one. And so we called her in. She said she'd be there. She was the very last one to audition. Very last one. And I cannot tell you how I and the other producers, other people who we cast, how impressed we were, because the actresses who auditioned for the role were not good enough. They were, many of them, many cases, just simply plain bad. And it is, I don't quite know how to explain this, but I think perhaps you understand this because you've done casting, but there is a point where you're doing the casting process, and if you're not getting someone who's at least kind of in the ballpark, there is a kind of heartbreaking feeling like, oh my God, I'm never going to find
And then how do I explain this to the investors?
How do I explain this to
Yeah.
or to anybody else? I mean, your stomach just hurts. And then Ren came in, very last person, about 20 minutes before we had to leave the building because we rented it for a certain length of time, but there were auditions. And she came in, and she was wonderful. And she went on. I asked her, Ren, would you wait outside for a few minutes? And one of the other people involved came up to me and he literally had tears in his eyes. He was so affected by her audition, and everyone was just talking, going on about how good she was. We brought her back in, and some of the money people talked with her for a few minutes. I mean, it was a full-blown conclusion, and we did something that I've never done before. I told her on the spot she had the part. And exactly, yeah. And it's like one of those moments, like I had to sit through all this crap to get this one jewel. So, but it was wonderful, and she's laughing. But
well, on my side of it, I mean, I've been working for a long time. I started my career 2012. I was 12 years old when I started pursuing acting. But I've done a lot of work. I've got like 80 credits on IMDb, but I've never done a lead role in a movie. So this was the first time I've ever walked into a room and I received that validation. Maybe it's here, but received that validation of like, we see the work you've put in here. So I drove home that day from the second audition. We drove to Tulare for the first one. The second one was in Hollywood, so a little closer to home. But I drove home that day.
Don't cry. Don't you dare cry for the room.
With 0 on my gas tank. I got home with 0 on my gas tank, thinking to myself, that doesn't matter right now because I did it. I finally did it. And this movie, I don't care what happens with it, like he was saying, you don't get that kind of stuff in LA. Nobody cares about you. They just want to make money. They just want to be, whatever. But we were a family on set. It was fun, and everybody wanted to be there. That's something now where everybody's worried about getting their paycheck, but we actually wanted to make something together. And so we were all each other's team. We were being honest with each other.
Everybody worked really hard above and beyond just what they were doing. They would help other people do things, even technically, which usually you don't do. But people were like, something like, with Joe, I remember he was helping, we had to do a scene with it, which was a special effects scene involving.
And I was the only other person besides the actor who was doing the burning that had ever done a fire scene.
Yeah, and we couldn't have very many people in the room. As it turned out, we actually had a ton of people trying to get
everybody's poking their heads in to watch
it. It was the size of a closet where this man is supposed to be catching fire.
Who doesn't want to watch that?
Right. So we had all these little looky-loos looking through the door. But the problem was, because of that, we couldn't have very many people there. So Joe stepped up and helped out. I couldn't even see the scene. I had to
I built her favorite toy. Her favorite toy of the movie. She loved the rifle. Wouldn't let it go at the con.
Right, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Walking around the big one.
Yeah, the big ray
and her arm.
Movie.
But
so I was doing a lot of special effects stuff that I wasn't planning on.
For
for insurance,
poor lady,
to save
not
money.
only did she have to be in that all-consuming costume in 115 degrees outside, but we had to put her in an alien makeup at one point at a convention.
2 hours.
I'm holding her head because I feel so sorry for her. And then the mom, she couldn't move.
You can't move your mouth because they're doing like.
Because, but you saw her a little bit in the convention, but and she had to be like that pretty much all day long in the makeup and get.
I loved every
I
second.
think it was like 2 hours in makeup to get it on,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, by the makeup artist. But it looked wonderful. And
Katie Lyons, wonderful makeup
no one else
artist.
has heard this. I'm going to tell you something. We had just a few days before our computer crashed, we had somebody who had nothing to do with the movie, but was a friend of our storyboard artist who was brought in because he wanted to talk to some of the producers about something that he was involved with. And while he's doing that, we're actually looking at the scenes. And as he's talking to us, he suddenly sees the scene, he's in makeup, and he goes, "Ugh!" He said, "That scared the crap out of me." And we're going,
When
"You
we
did something
finished
right."
shooting, Katie was our makeup artist. She was like, "Oh, I can take it off now." I was like, "Oh no, I'm okay. I just wanted
She's
to like,
running
walk
around the con,
Like,
carrying the rifles, shooting.
Right.
I got to enter the cosplay contest as myself.
Did you?
Yeah, as the night mission.
Yeah.
No, okay.
I didn't
cool.
win, but still.
No, you didn't win?
No, I promoted the heck out of her.
Yeah, you did. I got a good amount of votes
Well,
actually.
we,
Like
actually,
30 votes.
we have you, and the behind the scenes footage, which I think will be on the DVD or maybe it'll be a separate DVD, I'm not sure, has all of us answering questions from the audience, her in the makeup. So
Oh, yeah.
if you get a chance, to see the movie, make sure you watch that as well. But what is your favorite one?
Just the kind of what I summarized is just that all the work that I do in LA, nothing compares to feeling like a family on set.
Yeah.
And it does not happen as often as it should.
I truly believe that when you have people that really want to do what they're doing, as opposed to it's just their job, and are giving it 100% of what they have, sometimes you can make things work that wouldn't normally work. We had before, the very first day of filming was extraordinarily difficult. If there had been any other option, I would have scheduled the scenes that we had to shoot a week or more, and the movie would be a lot easier on the concern. But we had to have a scene where your character has a love scene with somebody else. It's a very emotional scene for her because she has this pouring her heart out to this man. She had to have the scene where she discovers.
I met that co-star that
That
day,
day.
like an hour
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we're gonna do love scene now.
No, but I think actually, think about the second or third scene we had to do. But I wanted you to have at least the day
Yeah,
with
couple
one
hours.
we had to shoot the scene where she had a mental breakdown when she realized
Which you saw a little bit with the razor, which she was thinking suicide.
then we
The
had
crew had to walk off after shooting that with tears in their eyes.
yeah,
Derek almost called the cops.
yeah. Most of the
They
people
were
were in a
convinced she
different
was going
room.
to kill herself.
Most of the people were in a different room, and just hearing the anguish in her voice broke everybody's heart. And that was the moment everybody sort of fell in love with Ren and this movie, because you realized, I'm going to get all sloppy here, but the fact is, Ren is an actress. She's a great actress, and we are privileged to have had the chance to work with her on this. She brought a level of professionalism and a level of quality to her performance that you just don't get very often. And
I think to her performance at Phillips Drive,
Yes.
we jumped the film from the level of B-type film much higher.
yeah, we were a small budget picture, but it looks like we spent a whole lot more than we did.
Because like Philip had said, everybody, whatever needed to be done, picked up.
Yeah.
For insurance purposes, you have to have paramedics on set. That ended up being me and the executive producer being the paramedics. You know,
And
instead of
Edward's
having-
wife, from time to time.
And Edward's wife, when we had the nurse on staff. On
In
set.
LA, there's a saying, "Not my department." That's what a lot of people on sets will say because they don't. It's like you can't even move a chair.
Whereas in this case, it's, well,
I mean,
what needs to be
What
done?
needs to get
Okay,
done,
sure,
who's
yeah.
closest to the chair? Yeah.
Whatever is best to do. And Ren gave it 100%. So everybody gave 100%. I had to shoot a scene. I had to act in the picture, not because I had a choice. It's not my ego is not so fragile that I feel like I have to act in everything. But I had a choice in the movie in that our camera people told me they needed to get a certain kind of camera lens combined with certain other equipment. And I'm trying to, where am I going to find that in the budget? I got to find it. I knew about it fairly late in the production. I could not find the money for it. So, you know what? If I play this role, this one part, then that means I don't have to pay anybody for that.
All those
that
days,
means
that character.
that means I can afford to give them the camera lens. Okay, I guess I'm going to play that. So what happened the very first day of filming? I had this huge long scene with, as I'm directing, not my happiest moment. But I got through it, and I guess I didn't do too bad a job. But fortunately, I was working with an extraordinary actress, so I could get away with a little bit. But no, in answer to the question I asked earlier, I think my favorite moments, I mean, I have a lot of favorite moments. There's an awful lot of things that I delight in. And I sound like I'm being so, but I know I truly do delight in, because of the way it makes me feel. I love the opening scene we have for the movie which it takes place in a museum. The camera work where you're walking down a flight of stairs and the camera just pivots around the corner and then follows her down and then walks backward as she goes over,
We
and then
got
she
some
finds
really
the dead
beautiful locations. And I
Yeah.
was pretty amazed at what they were able to pull just from connections that they had.
Showed
A
a
lot
lot
of
of
investments
nice
they
local-
made. A lot of great
Yeah.
places.
We were very fortunate. We had some great the
Museum.
Yeah,
museum, yeah, and the warehouse scene with Alan Woodman, who plays the character that we set on fire. The scenes in there look wonderful. It's very eerie and very atmospheric, very film noirish. But I think probably the scene that touched me on a purely fanboy level is the scene that she was talking about earlier when she's running through the forest in that 115-degree heat, dressed in like this ninja like character. We called it steampunk ninja with these steampunk goggles on. And she just running, and she just runs like a deer. I don't care how hot it was. She like, now, I'm an old fat man, so I had to run through that same forest. I did not do anything near as well as she did. I mean, she's like gracefully, she's just slicing through the air. Meanwhile,
Yeah, we won't mention the moment I had when you started running.
yeah.
That would cause you heart attack.
It didn't help. It didn't help. Going right through
That's
there.
the badger,
And then the fact that I was running next to a guy who was this incredibly fit man, in his early 40s, I think. And he just ran like not like a deer, but he was just so composed. Oh, it's so cool. As he's running down there, I'm trying to keep up with it. It was not my best moment on camera. But no, it was so cool to watch her in that costume.
I felt like a Power Ranger.
I couldn't believe this. Why this reminds me of like Spider-Man without the webs on the costume. It's so cool. I'm very, very pleased with so many people's performances in this movie, with some of the camera work and the post-production. There are things in this movie that are as good as it gets when it comes to doing
It just
small budget
comes together.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we made things with will, a force of will. It was like we actually had $20 million to do those things. And it makes me smile to realize, and as corny as it may sound, I had a heart attack making this movie, but if there is such a thing, it being worth it, this was worth it because I had a chance to work with extraordinary people, good friends.
And to be honest, he
people
had that heart
became
attack
really good friends.
about 3 weeks out of making the film. He had it ongoing. He just refused to leave the set.
Well, I also
he
had
had swore to himself he was going to finish this film even if it killed him. And
Well,
so I got very good at walking by Philip. Hey, you're sitting down, good. I'm going to be on. Dude, we need to call him. No, I'm fine.
Well, see, the thing is, my doctor, in defense of myself here, my doctor told me I was fine. My doctor told me I was having what they called the inflammation of the muscles around my lungs, which was causing me pain, but it was not life-threatening. Well, they were 100% wrong. It was my heart. And I was actually having heart attacks on the set, but didn't know it. Of the fact that I was in horrible pain. But in fact, one real quick moment here, there was a gentleman whose name was Javier Casares, who was a gentleman I talked to. I had to run through the forest with. He played a vice cop in the movie. I play a character who's supposed to be I'm investigating gangs. So anyway, the point being that the scene where I'm supposed to, we were shooting this in Hollywood at the home of Deborah Dutch, who is a major Hollywood scream queen. And we're shooting her stuff. And I'm supposed to come walk around a corner, supposed to bend down, find this dead body. I see something in the fingers, I take something out of the fingers, I'm looking at it. Meanwhile, Javier comes and sits next to me and says, what does that mean? We had this little conversation in the scene. I started having terrible pain in my chest. I was like, I gotta get through the scene. And every single time we did the scene, we get the lines wrong. And it's like 10 times, I think it was, through the shot, and I would be killing. And if I'd been in better shape, maybe I would have tried, but I didn't.
Standing up behind me. Come on.
One cute thing, I remember on the very first day of filming, one of the producers was talking to the executive and CEO of the studio that we're actually making film for. Which is, by the way, the name of the studio is called Green Cinema Productions, and they are a wonderful company. And they financed the picture. They believed not only in the project, they believed in me and all the cast, and they gave me a lot of latitude that a lot of studios will not give a director, particularly one who isn't Steven Spielberg. So, not being Steven Spielberg, I was very fortunate to be able to cast it pretty much the way I wanted. Anyway, the point being is that while I was directing some scenes with you, one of the producers leaned over and said, hey, he's not bad. And yeah, you know what? He's not screaming at anybody. And we were like, yeah, he's not. How can that be? It's like, I wasn't yelling, it doesn't make sense to me that a director should ever scream at an actor and put them through an emotional ringer, because they're already putting their emotions out on the camera. And I knew that was not gonna work with any of these people here.
I appreciate it.
Shut up!
Yes. Yeah, okay.
You work with some people that do that. Unfortunately.
Well, they get angry because it's, they're not, you're
You're not
not
material.
doing it the way that they
Envision.
envisioned in their head, or the way they would do it, and they get frustrated, especially if they wrote it too, which I'm surprised that you were writer-director and so lenient with your actors. You let us kind of
Well,
be.
here's the thing, here's the thing, come here. Here's the thing, when we were shooting that scene where she had everybody, I literally did this right now. I brought her over, sat down with her, I told everybody to get off the set. I just whispered in your ear for like, I think 5 or 10 minutes. And let you know this is your moment. We talked about the character, we talked about what she was experiencing. And I put your mind in hopefully a certain place. And I left you alone.
Right, he gave me the goal. Like a lot of times, the scene work, it should be about the objective the character's trying to get to. Not so much a line reading of, oh, you need to sound like my sister sounded on the day, I broke her cell phone or something. It's more of a, what are you trying to get out of this? And that's what he equipped me with, and I felt like it was.
And I basically told the camera people, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I kept everybody on the set quiet. I didn't want her to be listening to anyone or anything. And when we were ready, she let me know she was ready. I just turned the camera on, and I said, okay, action. And I was as quiet as I could be, because I didn't want to interrupt her train of thought. We filmed it, pretty much got it all in one take. We took a second shot just for safety's sake, but that's the take we used because it was wonderful. It was as good as it could get. I don't care if it was Meryl Streep, it would not have been better. And I mean,
wow,
I mean sincerely. And anybody that's seen that scene, you cannot watch it and not get emotionally involved.
It choked you.
Because it was that good. And well, good.
We got so lucky on most of the cast. Just who came out and auditioned for it, just getting into the business, been in the business, models. It was just amazing what we were able to put together when Philip cast it the way he did.
We're very fortunate that we actually do have some stars in our movie. Right. We have with us Deborah Dutch, who is a major Hollywood screen queen. We have also one of Hollywood's biggest horror stars, Brink Stevens. 2 of the biggest horror stars in the world, and they're in this mixture. We have from the TV show Batman, one of Catwoman's assistants.
The original Batman TV show.
Yeah.
She played Catgirl.
Her name was Sharon Winters. And we had with her from Star Trek Next Generation, the woman that plays Lieutenant Jay on the show, Tracy Coco. And all these people were just wonderful to work with. I have to admit, I love working with Tracy in particular because Tracy's always funny. She's always cracking. And Brink brought a huge level of professionalism.
We have a radio host, Rebecca Rye.
Rebecca Rye. And Rebecca auditioned for me. She originally was cast as
and she's on the Blaze.
Yeah.
Right here, Fresno. She's one of the radio 105.1.
Yeah, and she not only is a popular radio person and a very good actress, she plays a major role in the movie. But
she got tossed in the pool.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you saw us. We love that
the
scene.
thing is, she wanted to. She did the first time she had to work on a motion picture. She said, "Look, let me just hang out and set. Let me just stop off any way I can." We made our production assistant. By the end of the movie, she graduated from being a production assistant to being the assistant director.
Yeah, so she got
making movies, particularly a small budget picture, is that it's kind of like being at war. You can advance and rank really fast if you're good at what you do. If you're bad, they'll get rid of you. But if you're good at what you do, all of a sudden, hey, make this person do this. Have them do this instead.
We realized she was such an asset, we couldn't have done it without her.
Yeah.
She kept us all on line, as close on schedule as possible.
And because I was so ill at the time, having somebody who was really good at helping me behind the scenes, it helped immeasurably. So I'm very, very fortunate to have had Rebecca working in high school. And actually, Rebecca can't be here today because of her job, unfortunately. But she was wonderful to work with.
As producers, I've been so pleased with the actors we got in this. I've already cast her in a film as the lead in another film, science fiction role. Rebecca is going to be the production manager. I mean, they just, the teamwork and what I saw on set made me, I'm going to work with them again.
See, Joe was just really lazy. He was giving people that I find from my movies. And say, okay, I'm not going to find anybody.
Wait a minute now, wait a minute. I'm going to introduce you to some of these people. T.
Yeah,
Tracy.
but I'm going to hire them. Anyway, you know what? Why don't we open this up to
Yeah.
the audience? If you have questions about making movies, and
this job?
Claude?
yeah,
He was an
Claude's
actor
actually an actor. He plays the
and
detective.
one of the producers.
Claude, stand
I,
up.
um,
Stand up. Tell us
Also
about
producer.
yourself.
Sure. My name is Claudio Ball, and I have a small role, but an important role in the film. A private investigator, Wilson, is my name in the film that I play. It's I was fortunate to have like 2 days with this great cast and crew. Mostly everyone else had like 20 days of filming, or how many?
Our production schedule was 18 days. The only one that really worked consistently for the most of that was Ren's character, and ironically me, because that was one of the reasons I cast myself, is because the character had to be in so many different scenes, even though he wasn't necessarily always doing something important.
And then crew.
Yeah, of course, the crew, yeah, and catering. And that catering, it kept us going. No, but actually, you said small role. That's entirely true. You were in 1 day of filming, then we redid one of your scenes, but you also have voiceover work in several different other scenes.
Yes.
So actually,
Yes.
you're a very prominent character.
Yeah.
He's like
Well, I
the-
guess I'm just thinking of like how many days was actually being filmed.
That means
there
I
for
was
like
good
2
at my
days.
job. I just
Yeah.
scheduled you really well.
As well, you conserved.
He's like the
The time
Q
very
to
well.
my James Bond. Like,
Right, yeah,
he's
exactly.
the informant that she wouldn't be able to achieve what she was able to set out to do without having him advise her and give her
He
intel.
gets all the information on the crime lords.
Yeah. Who was at fault? He gave her that info.
Yeah.
So that was my role. And I recently became a executive producer. I do have a lot of faith in the film too. There's other things that are going on. We can't get into detail, but there's going to be a video game, comic books, playing cards, action figures, and that's all I can pretty much say. So I invested some of my money into it, besides my time and talent. I think it's going to do very well. And so
We're getting a lot of different offers from a lot of different sources to attach themselves in some level to the movie, be either as firm as the movie itself or spin-offs, in a sense, or what they call ancillary things for the movie, such as right now there is supposed to be a PS4 game.
It looks so good.
And it really looks, it's very cool. If you get on, and of those of you out there, if you get on Facebook and look up Night Mistress, the movie, or any one of us, you will see updates on things that are going on, and you'll see stuff about the game, about the movie itself.
Stuff from our art director.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah.
if you want to find out more about this stuff, just feel free to get on Facebook and you'll see all kinds of cool stuff.
Promote. Send it out there.
This is why we're here, so we can promote this thing. Anyway, any other
any
questions?
questions for me? Any other questions?
Well, I've got a question. Are you
Yes.
going to make sell DVDs of this?
The whole idea is that, well, first of all, there's talk right now of having a theatrical release. Both Universal and Lionsgate have expressed interest in distributing it and giving it a theatrical release. I don't know if that'll happen or not. It will certainly get on all the various video platforms such as Netflix, Hulu, Amazon,
So
Redbox,
many
and so
of
on. Yeah, basically, if it's a video platform, it'll be out there. So yeah, it'll be out there, and it'll certainly be out on DVD.
DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Mr. Cable, as a creator, I mean, I'm thinking of all the things I've seen people have to do on a set to get, and then you to get it done is incredible.
This, by the way, Doug, who is the head of Cinema Circus, one of the best series of videos that you can see on YouTube about conventions. So anyway.
Yeah, we try to support the kids and the adults, and I was thinking, the creativity, it starts there. If you don't see it in your mind, there's nothing else to show. So how do you aspire that, how do you get inspired, not inspired, how do you do it? How do you create something like that? Where does it come from? Every day, past experiences? I mean, I'm amazed
I
at
can tell
how you do it.
I'll tell you a quick little story. I could go for a joke here, but I won't. This is the truth of it. A number of years ago, how I created this particular movie, about 20 years ago, I made a film called 24 Hours of Midnight. Maybe the worst movie experience of my entire life. It was about a woman who was a ninja who was after the underworld because her lover is murdered by the underworld. Now, the thing is, that was such an utterly miserable experience, making the picture and then having the distribution company edit out all the scenes that gave the movie any kind of meaning, and then throw in a bunch of other scenes which were not intended to go in the picture, and even put in some nude scenes which made no sense. I was utterly dismayed, and I, of course, ended up getting blamed for it. And after 20 years, it still bothers me. So every 5-10 years, I will remake that idea just so I can get it out of my system. And so I did it as a vampire film back in 1991. And then I did it as a horror film again for this movie here. I have to say the only time I've ever really enjoyed doing the experience with this was here. Now, the point being is that they're not really the same picture. They all have a different premise. They all have different kind of characters. But the basic idea was the same. So part of my thought was when I first wrote the script, I got to get this thing out of my system again. It's just driving me nuts. Every time I think about how, because it's actually been voted one of the worst movies of all time, and deservedly so. Although, crazily, amazing enough, it was a hugely successful film.
He's a Raspberry Award.
Well, yeah, I wish it had been that well respected.
I like that, but it's not like you see some things that are masterpieces and people think like, oh my gosh, where did it come from? Well, it came from, in your idea, a failure or something that haunts you, and you wanted to get it right,
and turn it into
That's-
something that was good. And the good thing about this is that I don't think I'm going to be haunted quite so much by that, because for me, this experience was really good. I mean, even though health-wise I was not in the best of shape to do this movie, I had the good fortune of working with really good people. So part of the reason why the original film was not good is that the director, our sound guy, and our cameraman couldn't have cared less of the movie, and it had to be finished. They had to finish it so they could go work on other things they wanted to do. So for them, they didn't care if it was good or if it was bad or something in between, as long as they got it done. So literally, it was bad because people just didn't care. The people I brought in did care. I cared, but they didn't. And if those people in those positions of authority don't care, it will not be good. It doesn't matter how hard everybody else works. Now in this case, everybody that worked on this picture cared that it was good, and they gave it their best shot. And that's all I ever ask of anybody. Just give me your best shot. Give me the best effort you can.
Well, as Mr. Cahill said, you're talking about that history. It's his determination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't give up.
No. I was talking to Dee Wallace, who was probably best known for her work on playing the mother in E.T., as well as a really, really good horror film called The Howling. And we were talking about having her work on
the cutest werewolf I've ever seen.
Since you know so many.
Let's not go there.
We were talking about how I was there at another convention in Bakersfield at the time, and she was asking me what I was promoting. I was explaining about this film here, and at the time, I and someone else were trying to convince her to work on a future film, a science fiction film that they were thinking about doing in a few months. Now, the point being is that she asked me about this project, and I explained how this happened, and she heard from one of the people in the cast how I had a heart attack, and how I had just recently had heart surgery. And she asked, why are you here? How could you make that movie when you were so sick? And I said, because my movie was everything, and it's just pain. Now, that's not going to make sense to most people, but sometimes you have to just say, you know what, we face adversity in some level all the time in our lives. It could be a bad job situation, it could be a serious love affair that gone south. You could have personal relationships with your heart could be breaking for whatever reason. And you have a choice you can make. You can allow that to stop or you can say, okay, I'll do it.
You do it
And you
again.
move on. You
Yes.
do the best you can with the cards that you're dealt.
Nice.
I had a heart issue. I dealt with it the best I could because in the final analysis, no one's going to remember or care much about whether I had a heart issue, but they are going to care about this 20 years from now.
Yeah,
We're still watching King Kong after 80, 90, 100 years. And people are still going, wow! We're still watching George Méliès's movies from the 1890s because they are still magical after all these years. I don't put myself in that same category, but you know what? I think people are going to they're going to enjoy this movie because it's fun. It's fun. I keep telling people this thing over and over again. It sounds like it's silly, but I keep telling people that this is a horror movie for people that don't like horror films. Because you can
It's a
like
lot of thriller.
It's mainly a thriller that happens to have this kind of horrific elements to it with these monsters in it, but they're all monsters with someone in a costume, and we know they're in a costume because it's her in makeup going and recreating scenes from movies. Anyway, my point here being that I dealt with my adversity as best I could. Hopefully each of you, and you face all the things in your life which are seemingly overwhelming, you can overcome that. And if you do that, then ultimately you will win. You will achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, whether it be success, financial, or artistic, or personal, or love, whatever. Anyway, now I'll get off my soapbox.
So it's basically, it was the pain of not doing it, or the physical pain.
The pain of not doing it would have been far worse than the pain I was had by doing it.
Pain.
How long were you off the set then? Did you take time?
He did not take time.
Are you serious?
No,
pushed through it.
I had a serious heart attack, overwhelmingly painful, 3 days after we stopped production. So basically what it is, I just told myself, I will keep going until I can. And 3 days afterwards, that's when I had to go in the hospital, and they said, you know what, you're gonna die unless you operate on it. So they did. Anyway.
You just say, go ahead, I have time now.
I have the time. I have the time to lay down for a few.
There were a couple moments on set where we were concerned. It was chest pain, and that didn't sound good. But he would just take a couple minutes to just sit down and say, "No, I'm fine. It's nothing to worry about. I just need to catch my breath." And then he'd get up and we'd keep working.
The bad thing about being a director, and I can't speak for every director, but certainly in my case, you don't get the chance to relax ever, or when you have time. Even when I was eating something or sipping something, I was also doing things, getting ready for the next shot. So
And
you've
he
never
was
had
the
the chance.
ringleader for 20 or so people, every day.
Yeah, and when everybody had a problem, they usually ran to me. So.
I got a tripod in the camera and I'm exhausted.
Yeah. You have an idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, a little bit.
Any other questions, folks?
Producer?
Co-producer.
Yeah.
Co-producer.
Yes.
And then I'm the CEO of Steamhouse Entertainment, which is, my company came on board as an associate production company, and then I came on as a co-producer as well, because Philip and I are like brothers for a while. And I was going to help him. Same thing when he was working on Shadow Squad. I just jumped in.
At the time, I had, if you go to my table, which is on the far side over here, you'll see Edward Llewellyn, who is our storyboard artist. He's a renowned comic book artist in his own right. And Edward and I were going down to meet with Dream Cinema about this particular project. Once they had settled on this is the project that they wanted to do, and Joe was interested in coming along, and we brought him along, and I said, okay, Joe, now this is what you're going to have to do when you talk to these people. Make sure you emphasize this. And they came in there, and they were a little suspicious of him.
At first they thought I was your lawyer. What, you brought a lawyer to this meeting?
Yeah, and I said, no. Joe's going to be helping with product placement. They go, oh, okay. And he told me he could supply it, to bring all these things like water and some other stuff to the pot. And suddenly everybody loved it.
Yeah, by the end of the meeting, I was a co-producer and getting to I was like, yeah!
See how good life is when you do business with me?
When you stay alive, it's
Yeah.
good.
That's the
Hey, come on, this was the heart of the
They
film,
fight
and
like
he tried to
Step
break it.
Brothers. Oh my gosh.
We were so angry at him. Quit trying to break yourself. You can't do this without you.
Well, I don't get the chance to relax the way you do.
Any other questions?
I did so much on 4.5 hour trips every time we're shooting.
Thank you guys so much for coming
Yeah,
out
please,
and
thank you.
hearing us
No
out.
other we.
Where do we find you guys online?
I'll tell you what?
Where do we
Night
find you
Mistress the
online?
movie on
Yeah,
Facebook.
you can find, you can look up Night Mistress the movie, and you can find it online. And you can actually find it online, you can also watch the trailer, or the teaser.
Joe Cahill, director producer, Steve House Entertainment.
Yeah, or if you want it,
Renee
Ron
Michelle.
Paul, Renee Michelle Aranda, or Philip Cable. You get on any of that, if you want to friend us, that's fine, and you will definitely get updates.
Yeah, you'll see everything else we've got on the burners now,
Yeah.
which is a lot between us.
Yeah, there are lots of other films that we're going to be doing. She has now become an award-winning actress. Claude has got a major modeling career that just started.
It just
Joe's got
exploded lately.
various movie projects going. I've got some other projects, but both big and small, with Dream Cinema.
There's a new Netflix original series coming out that I've got a speaking named role in. So
Woo.
keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, here in the wilds of Fresno, there's actually lots of stuff that's happening. And you know what? Which only goes to prove the point that you don't have to be in Hollywood for every single thing you do.
Oh,
And
locations are so much better out here, so easy to find.
in fact, the fact that the head of the studio, once we filmed out here, he fell in love with this area, and now wants to do a whole series of motion pictures out here in the San Joaquin
Drove him
Valley.
around doing some scouting, location scouting, and he's like, why is nobody using this place? Why is
How
this
did we
not
get
working?"
there?
I've been telling a lot of my acting friends, like, guys, check out this entertainment industry up here because people still care. They're like, what? No, they care. Yeah, it's great.
Well, I've noticed on my Instagram I had a huge valley follow. I've now noticed it is switching. I actually have about 90% of my followers now are Los Angeles
Good.
on my IG. So it's switching over from the valley
LA's so
followers.
fickle. As soon as they see that, oh, people are watching and they care, then all of a
Everybody
sudden-
piles on. Yeah, great.
So when's it going to be released?
If they'll pile on for less money, then we'll-
Ideally, if all those, depending upon whether we have a theatrical release or not, probably sometime this summer. I'm guessing late this summer.
I hope it is, yeah.
But,
Well, I would think that it would be
here's the
kind of
thing,
fun to
if
just
yes,
do some of the
yes and
theaters
no, the
ourselves.
good and bad. Theatrical release means a minimum of, they're going to spend on the P&A cost, which is print and advertising, a minimum of $25 million to upwards of 40, depending on the studio, whether it's Universal or Lionsgate.
If you go on
Now,
Netflix-
that means they would have to make, let's say, $40 million or more before any of us would ever see Dine One. Whereas if we go directly to Netflix and so on, then we start seeing money right away.
The royalties
So,
are
but by
big.
the same token, if it has a theatrical release, it gets more widely known, therefore Netflix and so on pays more money for it. So yeah, exactly. So there's good and bad either way. So it kind of depends on how you.
Well, here's hoping
We'll see.
distribute one way or another.
Anyway, yeah, we definitely will. We definitely.
And I've tried, and I've
we have
talked to
people
our
literally
executive
asking,
producer,
begging us for it.
that at least maybe some red carpet things at some of the local historic theaters.
We are supposed to have a world premiere at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, and we're trying to negotiate a deal where we can have an actual premiere here in the Valley as well. Hopefully, I would love to see it done at the Fox Theater in Visalia.
Ooh.
Because it's old school theater and absolutely beautiful. You haven't seen it. You know what? It looks like a theater from the 1920s.
They have a Fox Theater in Pomona down there.
Okay.
It's pretty.
Anyway, you know what? I suppose we better leave.
Yeah,
Kids out here.
thanks, guys.
But thank you for having me. We'll be back. So if you want